One Zambia, one nation. Good evening, a warm welcome to the main news broadcast at 19 hours here on ZNBC TV1. To present the news, my name is Penny Fanyurenda and our sign language caster is Chola Kauma. Here are the top stories. President Edgar Lungu has appointed a new board for the Financial Intelligence Center. State House says law enforcement agencies will investigate drug trafficking allegations because it takes such assertions seriously. U.S. President Donald Trump has fired his National Security Advisor John Bolton. Also making headlines, Water Development, Sanitation and Environmental Protection Minister Dennis Wanchinga says degraded land in Zambia is now estimated at over 55,100 square kilometers. Thank you so much for your company. And now the news in detail. President Edgar Lungu has appointed a new board for the Financial Intelligence Center, FIC. This follows the expiry of the tenure for the previous board in January 2019. Unveiling the new board in Lusaka today, Finance Minister Walyangandu said the board will be chaired by George Siame, who takes over from John Kasanga. Dr. Ngandu thanked the previous board for its efforts aimed at attaining the goals and objectives of the center. Other members of the board are Justice Priska Nyambe, Pelagia Kalunga, Dr. Mike Ngoma and Regina Mlenga.
You have a duty as new members to uphold the operational independence of the institution, as this is one of the requirements of the International Anti-Money Laundering and Countering of Financing of Terrorism standards on the operations of the financial intelligence units across the globe. The following constitute the core roles or mandate of the board. 1, to monitor and review the administrative performance of the center in carrying out of its functions under the Act. 2, to approve policies for the proper administration and management of the center. 3, to review the implementation of cooperation agreements between the center and domestic or foreign designated authorities.
And the Patriotic Front has advised UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema to stop using Financial Intelligence Center FIC Chief Executive Officer Mary Schumer in his political battles. PF Media Director Sunday Chanda says the opposition leader should not compromise Ms. Schumer's professional standing unless he's telling the people something that they don't know about. He said the FIC operates without instructions from anyone. Mr. Chanda said the FIC is an independent and autonomous government institution under the Ministry of Finance whose core function is to receive and analyze financial transactions and reports bordering on suspected money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation. He said the FIC is 100% funded by the Ministry of Finance and has no external funds that come from the center, which underscores the PF government's resolve to strengthen the center as part of the process to ensure its integrity. This is contained in a statement issued to ZNBC News in Lusaka today. State House says law enforcement agencies will investigate drug trafficking allegations because it takes such assertions seriously. Special Assistant to the President for Press and Public Relations, Isaac Chipampe, says the investigations will be done in coordination with appropriate authorities. Mr. Chipampe said this in a statement availed to ZNBC News in Lusaka today. Yesterday, the registered NDC leader, Chishimba Kambwili, made several allegations against President Edgar Lungu. New Congress Party President Peter Chanda has cautioned the registered opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC leader Chimba Kambwili against discrediting President Edgar Lungu. Pastor Chanda notes that Mr. Kambwili has continued issuing defamatory statements against the president even after being reported to the police for uttering disparaging remarks against the head of state. Pastor Chanda said this at a media briefing in Lusaka today. And Zambia Republican Party President Right Musoma has called on Zambians not to be deceived by the opposition leader. Meanwhile, Evangelical Youth Alliance Executive Director Moses Lungu says political leaders should refrain from issuing malicious statements against President Lungu.
It is sad to see that despite having taken certain matters to the Zambia police and reported certain individuals like Honorable Chimba Kambwili to Zambia police, where he is reminded on defamation statement, defamation of the president, we have seen that Honorable Chimba Kambwili has continued to issue defamatory statement. It is on record that yesterday Honorable Chimba Kambwili addressed the press and stated that the presidential jet is used for particular deals.
Such allegations actually affects the aspirations of the future generations of young people that are working so hard in this country. They may not be looked upon in good light when we happen to go outside this country. We are calling on the Inspector General of Police. We are also challenging Chimba Kambwili to prove the allegations in the video that has gone viral.
The Ministry of Home Affairs has dispelled social media allegations that UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema risks being arrested if he continues making donations to assist government. Ministry of Home Affairs Public Relations Officer Nefas Chiputa says the allegations are malicious and false, created by desperate individuals seeking political acceptance and relevance at the expense of the truth. Mr. Chiputa has since warned people circulating such fabrications to stop the act as the behavior amounts to criminality. He has appealed to media houses and individuals to respect media ethics, practice professional journalism, and stop posting false information. He said Home Affairs Minister Stephen Kampyongo did not give an interview to any media house nor discuss issues as contained in the article. Mr. Chifuta adds that the 60,000 kwacha mentioned and 1,500 police officers alleged to have been deployed in the Chawama operation is purely the imaginations of the author. He has also appealed to individuals, non-government organizations and political institutions to follow procedure whenever they intend to make donations to avoid unnecessary clashes. This is contained in a statement availed to ZNBC News in Lusaka. The Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, has set October 10, 2019 as the date for the Kaoma Town Council Chairperson by-election in Western Province. The Commission will on the same date conduct 2 local government ward by-elections in Chikonkwela ward of Kabompo Town Council and Samutewa ward of Mwinilunga Town Council in Northwestern Province. ECZ Public Relations Manager Margaret Chimanze has advised aspiring candidates to lodge in completed and attested statutory declaration and nomination papers following requirements by the Commission. Ms. Chimanze has told ZNBC News in a statement that those that do not meet the requirements shall have their nominations rendered null and void. She said accreditation for political party officials wishing to monitor elections in the district and wards will be limited to 10 members per political party. Ms. Chimanze added that the campaign period for the elections commences on September 17, 2019 and ends on October 9, 2019. This is contained in a statement made available to ZNBC News in Lusaka. Now, a couple from Samfya District in Luapula Province has been battered and robbed of 30,000 kwacha by suspected Congolese nationals at Kasumbalesa border post. Chililawombwe District Commissioner Paul Mulenga told ZNBC News in Kitwe that the two who had traveled to Kasumbalesa border in Chililawombwe to sell fish and were battered and robbed after they crossed to the Congolese side for shopping. Mr. Mulenga explained that upon entering that country, the couple was interrogated by the Congolese security personnel and slapped with various fines.
A couple lost 30,000 kwacha They came from Zambia with fish to sell at the border post here. They arrived in the evening. By 10, the fish got finished. We going to buy some what? Do some shopping. We're going to buy shoes. They were marked. Someone from the said, me I go to the shop where I can buy nice shoes at a reasonable price. They were enticed and they followed that person. While they found that shop, another person, and the Congolese police officer, given a wrong charge, beaten up, the wife fainted, taken to hospital. The following day, they came back into Zambia.
Livingstone Chamber of Commerce and Industry President Namakau Sianga has commended government for creating business interaction platforms through the hosting of investment expositions. Mrs. Sianga says the hosting of expos that has taken center stage in the country has already started producing investment opportunities for both local and international businesses. More in this report.
Working around the clock to ensure that this place comes alive, as the Southern Province hosts what organizers have dubbed the mother of all expos. Southern Province Investment and Exhibition Committee Chairperson Richard Mbewe has assured that this place will be ready for the hosting of the expo by Friday 13th September 2019.
What we've done is that the pavilions will in segments or sections or sectors. So you'll have the tourism sector in one area, and then you'll have the agriculture sector in one area, and so on and so on. We've done this so that there is continuity. What we envisage to see here is a mother of all expos, because we are the last this year, but then we've gained experience by attending the other expos.
Livingstone Chamber of Commerce and Industry President Namakau Sianga is happy with what the country has achieved so far.
We have seen that wherever these expos have taken place, there's been a transition in terms of investment. And that is, of course, as a spillover effect from the expos, and that we expect to see in Livingstone. So we commend the government for coming up with this strategy that brings both local and international investors at a platform.
She is hopeful that the Southern Province Investment and Tourism Expo will yield intended results.
The opportunity that has been created is one that will see people invest in our closed down industries and revamp them so that that can stimulate some economic activity. As they revamp these industries, people will be able to create employment. So we are very hopeful.
And ZESCO has assured that measures have been put in place at the venue to ensure that power interruption is not experienced during the event. Angela Limonya, ZNBC News in Livingstone.
Water Development, Sanitation and Environmental Protection Minister Dennis Wanchinga says degraded land in Zambia is now estimated at over 55,100 square kilometers. Dr. Wanchinga says communities in degraded areas have incurred huge financial and other losses because of land degradation impacts. The minister, however, revealed that Zambia's land under agriculture production increased from 30.6% in 2005 to about 32% in 2014, which has increased land degradation and drought.
Also is committed to the idea that the commitments which have been made by developed countries should be honored, and is also committed to the enforcement of these agreements. Mr. President, Zambia as a country, we are committed to the implementation of the tenets of the Convention, and we have demonstrated this commitment efforts by the land degradation neutrality efforts we have been making.
Vice President Inonga Wina has urged citizens to focus on diversifying to more nutritious diets at household level. Mrs. Wina says there is need to switch from the consumption of highly refined foods to more nutritious ones because it is cheaper and has many health benefits. She said practical measures include turning to low-cost food crops such as millet, sorghum, sweet potatoes, pumpkins and cassava. Mrs. Wina has also commended Chief Chitambo of Serenja District for calling on Zambians to promote and revert to more traditional foods that have greater health benefits as part of poverty reduction strategies. The Vice President has also commended hotels, lodges and restaurants that are promoting traditional dishes as part of their services. Mrs. Wina further states that the gradual shift from predominantly maize-based meals is good for the nation, as more nutritious foods will find space in homes. The Vice President was speaking when a team from Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, led by their board chairperson Isaac Ngoma, paid a courtesy call on her to discuss developmental matters. Meanwhile, Mr. Ngoma praised government for undertaking austerity measures aimed at increasing the resource base to meet developmental needs in the economic and social sectors. This is according to a statement issued to ZNBC News by Permanent Secretary Administration in the Office of the Vice President, Stephen Mwanza. You're watching the main news at 19 hours. Just now we take a break, and when we come back we have health and education news. Do stay with us. While we get into the details of this story, Health Minister Chitalo Chilufya says President Edgar Lungu's recent state visit to India has started producing dividends. Dr. Chilufya said India has responded expeditiously to the need to second medical lecturers and specialists to Levi Mwanawasa Medical University. The Health Minister was speaking on arrival in India. And Zambia's High Commissioner to India, Judith Kapijimpanga, said Zambia stands to benefit greatly if it increases high-level visits, especially in the area of health.
In his recent visit to India, President Lungu emphasized the need for Zambia to strengthen collaboration with India, which is a giant in medicine, in public health security, and in health diplomacy. We therefore are here to conclude all the matters that were in the Memorandum of Understanding, and that spans pharmaceuticals, human capital development, equipment. Therefore, the complexion of the team that is visiting Your Excellency is speaking to the items that are in the Memorandum of Understanding.
We are grateful that you've managed to come as a follow-up visit to our President's official visit when he came. We are happy that your coming will come to fruition of the conclusion towards the Indian government and the Zambian government fulfilling the bilaterals in terms of equipping your ministry through the medical schools with lecturers.
The United Church of Zambia, UCZ, has started the construction of the Arthur Wina Memorial Hospital in honor of late veteran politician. UCZ Synod Bishop Sidney Chilima says the $90,000 health facility will be constructed as one way of paying tribute to Mr. Wina's efforts in liberation of Zambia. Bishop Chilima was speaking when he led members of the clergy at the groundbreaking ceremony of the construction of the Arthur Wina Memorial Hospital in Nalolo District of Western Province. He has explained that the hospital will supplement healthcare services currently provided by rural health facilities to over 3,000 people in the area. Bishop Chilima noted that the hospital is being constructed with support from Dignity Zambia, an Australian-based charity organization. This is contained in a statement issued to ZNBC News by UCZ Western Presbytery Communications Officer Hilda Akekelwa. And that's all we had in health news. Thank you so much for watching. Now moving on to education news. Potaka District has reported erratic funding as the biggest challenge and threat to the success of social welfare and community development programs in the area. District Commissioner Velinasi Banda has told Community Development Minister Kampamba Chewe, who is visiting the district on a familiarization tour, that there is need to ensure that poor funding is addressed. She said under social cash transfer, payments to the 8,209 benefiting households are outstanding since last year. And Mrs. Chewe said her ministry will address the issue of funding by engaging her counterpart in the Ministry of Finance. The Loans and Scholarships Board says student loans have been tailored to support programs that promote the attainment of the 7th National Development Plan and not vulnerability. Board Chief Executive Officer Irene Chirwa says this is why 60% of student loans is given in science and its related programs, while 40% is given to social sciences. Mrs. Chirwa also disclosed that recoveries from former students stand at 30 million kwacha as at 31st August 2019. She was speaking during an orientation meeting with the 300 first-year students that have been given loans at Mulungushi University today.
You are not expected to change the program. You are not expected to change the program because we gave you the offer based on the program that you told us this is what you have been admitted into by the university. I want to emphasize that our loans now are not based on vulnerability. We are responding to the 7th National Development Plan, and so our loans are based on the programs that you have chosen to do as students. We are looking to contributing to the development of this country.
And that's it for Education News. Join us for another segment on Thursday.
Philosophy is the love of wisdom, but if you look at the etymological definition from the Greek background, you see that philosophy, the word...
Experience distance learning that feels like you are in a classroom. Study from the comfort of your home on your Cavendish University provided tablet.
Moving on with the news, Health Professions Council of Zambia, HPCZ Registrar Wembia Walia has commended ZNBC for its professionalism in disseminating news and other programs to the public. Mr. Walia was speaking when he paid a courtesy call on ZNBC Director General Richard Mwanza in Lusaka today. More in the following report.
He has continued to engage different institutions as a core business for the national broadcaster. ZNBC Director General Richard Mwanza has met Health Professions Council of Zambia HPCZ Registrar Wembia Walia to discuss various issues regarding coverage on health. Mr. Wembia praised ZNBC for its professionalism.
We've noted that you are a media we can rely on to communicate factual information to the public. We've noted, of course, that others, they may not be relied on so much. But we've seen a lot of professionalism here when it comes to disseminating correct information to the public and factual for that matter.
Mr. Mwanza assured HPCZ of ZNBC's commitment to cover health-related programs for the benefit of the country.
ZNBC currently boasts of the widest reach in broadcast coverage in the country. Our platform on both radio and television enables organizations such as yours to easily reach millions of Zambians with important information.
Later, Mr. Wembia toured the ZNBC studios to appreciate the new equipment that ZNBC uses for production. Earlier, ZNBC signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the University of Lusaka to enhance information dissemination.
The University of Lusaka is a key institution to Zambia's socio-economic development as it provides human resource, which is the most important resource needed to develop the country. ZNBC and UNILAS have a huge responsibility to address concerns and challenges affecting the general public.
Professor Pinalo Chifuanakeni is UNILAS Vice Chancellor.
The University of Lusaka is now boasting of 3 campuses, the one at the Long Acres here, the one in Leopard's Hill, and our modern campus that we're almost getting to completion of phase 1.
Wilson Mulinda, ZNBC News, Lusaka.
And that story takes us to a final break. Do stay with us for the rest of the news. In more news, former Zambia's ambassador to Zimbabwe, Spula Kabanje, has urged African leaders to emulate late former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe's determination towards uniting the continent. Dr. Kabanje, who served as a diplomat during the MMD administration, says he enjoyed working with Mr. Mugabe because he inculcated good leadership values among the people he worked with. More in the following report.
It sounded like a dream, you know, when we won the elections.
As the country waits for the arrival of the body of late Zimbabwean President and revolutionist Robert Mugabe, Zambians who worked with him have continued praising him. Former Zambian ambassador to Zimbabwe, Sipula Kabanje, is among Zambian diplomats who worked with Mr. Mugabe. Dr. Kabanje says Mr. Mugabe stood firm for his country and the continent.
Let us not deny great Mugabe, like many people are saying. Mugabe can only be understood in the context of the epoch. That's the epoch of the African liberation, which was a dual world.
Even in his death, Mr. Mugabe has left an indelible mark, as evidenced by his academic credentials, which Dr. Kabanje says should be an inspiration among young people.
Mugabe is classified not as the most educated president in Africa, but in the world. He garnered more than 6 academic degrees, and I think more than 12 honorary doctorates, Doctor of Literature, Doctor of Laws, and many people forget that he was also an honorary professor of political science of the University of Beijing.
Dr. Kabanje, who served as ambassador to Zimbabwe from 2009 to 2012, reminisces some of his great moments with the late Pan-Africanist.
You know, Mugabe inspired. He gave moral encouragement to Africans, wherever they may be, in Africa and in the diaspora. I remember an expression. He said, we'll make sure that we strike terror in the heart of the white man. Now, that's very brave.
Late Mugabe died last Friday at the age of 95 in Singapore, where he had been admitted since April. Mark Ziligone, ZNBC News, Lusaka.
And Zambia's permanent representative to the United Nations World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, Christine Kaseba-Sata, has paid tribute to Zimbabwe's founding president, Robert Mugabe, who died last week. Dr. Kaseba-Sata was speaking in St. Petersburg in Russia during the UNWTO Regional Commission for Africa General Assembly. More in this report.
All roads in the tourism sector of the world are leading to Russia this week. Russia is hosting the 23rd edition of the United Nations World Tourism Organization UNWTO General Assembly in St. Petersburg. The meeting is taking place shortly after the deaths of 2 prominent Africans, and the UNWTO has observed a minute of silence in their honor. Zambia, which co-hosted the 2013 UNWTO General Assembly with Zimbabwe, is mourning with the neighboring country and Tunisia.
As Zambia, we would like to grieve with the people of our Siamese twin, Zimbabwe, for the loss of Comrade Mugabe, and we also register our condolences to the people of Tunisia.
The Minister of Tourism for Jamaica has taken advantage of the UNWTO gathering to call on the world to support the Bahamas, which has suffered a devastating cyclone.
So we ask that in our communications from the UNWTO, and indeed from our African brothers, that Bahamas be referred to not as a devastated community, but rather as a community that requires the support of all.
Zambia has heard the plea from the Bahamas.
To Bahamas, we feel your pain, we feel your anguish, and please count on Zambia to spread the word for help, and also to encourage people to visit Bahamas.
On a positive note, Zambia is the next chair of the UNWTO Commission for Africa, CAF, taking over from Kenya.
I have full confidence in my successor, which is Zambia, to take over from me as the CAF chair from this General Assembly, after this General Assembly, and also congratulate Zambia for being the outgoing chair of the Executive Council.
The delegates to the UNWTO General Assembly have many topics, including job creation through tourism. Lakson Tani, ZNBC News, St. Petersburg, Russia.
In foreign news, U.S. President Donald Trump has fired his national security advisor, John Bolton. BBC reports that the firing comes amid reports of divisions in the Trump cabinet over a cancelled peace plan to invite the Taliban to the US. Mr. Bolton was Mr. Trump's third national security advisor after Michael Flynn and Herbert Raymond McMaster. For the stories, here's DWTV.
North Korea has fired at least 2 new unidentified projectiles into the sea. That's according to South Korea's military. Tuesday's launch was the 8th since late July, and it came just hours after North Korea offered to resume nuclear diplomacy talks with the United States. Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte's government has survived the first of 2 confidence votes. His 4-day-old coalition won by a comfortable margin in a raucous session of Parliament. Italy's Senate will also vote on Tuesday. A loss would force Conte to resign and likely trigger new elections this autumn. All crew members have been rescued from a capsized South Korean cargo ship off the US state of Georgia. Rescuers had to drill through the hull to reach the 24 people who were on board when the Golden Ray capsized on Sunday.
And on that international news note, we've come to the end of the news. But just before we go, here are the stories that made headlines. President Edgar Lungu has appointed a new board for the Financial Intelligence Center. State House says law enforcement agencies will investigate drug trafficking allegations because it takes such assertions seriously. Water Development, Sanitation and Environmental Protection Minister Dennis Wanchinga says degraded land in Zambia is now estimated at over 55,100 square kilometers. And lastly, US President Donald Trump has fired his national security advisor, John Bolton. And that's the news this hour. Thank you so much for your company. Do join us for the next news update at 22 hours. From all of us, we say thank you so much for watching. And remember that Zambia is bigger than all of us. Good night.